Hello and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 277. Almost got the number wrong there. Today we will continue with the developments to do with the official lawsuit. There hasn't been that many things going on in the past week, but we think that it is important to cover, so we will make sure to do that. Besides that, we also have some news to do with the game itself. The Covenant campaign was wrapped up with last reset, and throughout the week, we have gone through the different quest lines and everything to cover any interesting lore snippets, and we'll summarize them in today's show. So that will cover. That's the different things that we will cover today mainly. Before we jump into anything, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Annie, or also known as Annie Fuchsia, and I am here every week to cover any news that is going on in the WoW world. I always do this with my lovely co host, Wowhead Site Director, Perculia.
I'm Perk. I run Wowhead, overseeing the various guides and tools and news we do, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, so it's always great to do the show and talk to people who use the site, be in front of the camera for a change. Sometimes we were joined by Brightpaw, my cat, who is not here right now, but he usually shows up for the show intro. And he's gonna come. He might. Here, there he is.
Oh.
He's here. We see a tail. He heard his name. We have a tail. But yeah, like Annie said, we do have some ongoing lawsuit developments, some big things like the Diablo IV Game Director being let go, as well as a lot of discoveries related to the end of the Covenant campaign a few days ago. A lot of interesting lore conversations. We covered the big ones last week, but then more were discovered in more obscure locations, and yeah, they were pretty interesting. So yeah, why don't we
Indeed.
get started then
I
with
also want to quickly.
Nidophone?
Apparently, you are unsynced, so I want to
Hmm.
quickly take a look if we can fix that.
Okay.
I'm just gonna. Let's see. I'm gonna go into intro real quick so I can.
Hmm.
Or actually, why don't you try to change the server to central?
Okay. Sure.
I think that should fix it. All right. Testing.
Test 1, 2, 3.
I think that's better. I don't know if I'm imagining, but I think that's better. So yeah, let's jump into things then. Hopefully that is fixed. Sometimes syncing problems are difficult to take care of, especially live, but hopefully that did fix it a little bit at least. But yeah, why don't we jump into the Covenant campaign developments? So we had, as Perk said, we went through the major story things last week as the patch had just hit live servers, and throughout the week, more snippets of lore was discovered in more obscure places, such as specific quest lines that needed to be played through, and these are the ones that we're gonna go through and show you guys now. The first one here with a conversation between Shandris and Tyrande. Let me get the convo on the screen. There we go.
So, yeah, this one was interesting because we finally got some background as to why Tyrande was in a changed state of mind after that cinematic with Elune a few weeks ago. And people were curious what her reaction would be, learning that Elune thought about intervening but decided not to because she wanted to save the souls for her sister in Ardenweald, and how that backfired. And then she chose renewal instead of vengeance. A lot of people were very confused by that whole sequence and wondering why Tyrande was not more upset, or was she in shock? And now we have a conversation that clarifies that a bit. And maybe it's not the most satisfying conversation for fans, but it does make things clearer, I think.
Yeah.
Tyrande wanted answers. Like that's why she went to Shadowlands. She wanted to know why were we abandoned. I want an answer. And she did get an answer from Elune. It was, I didn't abandon you. The Night Elves were going to be part of this larger cosmic wide plan, and Tyrande has seen firsthand how bad the anima situation is.
Mm-hmm.
So she has accepted that. She got an answer and she learned that the Night Elves were not abandoned and they were still being watched over by Elune. So, yeah, what do you think
Yeah.
of this? Because it's like, yes, but no. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like, sure, like you said, sure, she did get an answer to her question. But the answer feels kind of I feel that it doesn't feel enough. I'm not sure if that's because I lack the kind of depth understanding that Tyrande understands that I am not, but it feels like Elune got off easy in a way.
Yeah.
It feels like Tyrande should have maybe. I'm not sure if she's in the right place to do so, but maybe not directly ask Elune, but at least wonder to herself why was because the I guess the biggest thing that bothers me here is that sure Elune had this plan of taking care of the souls or making the souls be able to take care of Ardenweald with the missing anima. But then we also know that wasn't even possible because everything got stuck in the maw. And because of that part of the story, I feel like there is some right in questioning Elune taking such a large risk and not even knowing
Mm.
where if the souls even ended up where she wanted them to end up, because it feels like a huge sacrifice to not even make sure that it truly does help.
Yeah.
um,
And, Tyrande is saying things like, oh, Elune made a choice to aid her sister, not to cause us sorrow. Um,
yeah.
and it's like, well, you heard all these prayers of your people in extreme pain and then having to rebuild and get Darkshore back. Like, shouldn't you have realized that something backfired and you did cause them sorrow, while meanwhile the Winter Queen is still sending distress signals? So maybe the souls didn't make their way to Ardenweald as planned. uh
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it just feels like the burning was such a dramatic thing that any little plot hole is it's a big deal that doesn't quite sit right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like some like skirmish happened. It's just like, you sent a whole nation of people to
Mm-hmm.
Ardenweald
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't make it to Ardenweald, and the goddess is really surprised that the night elves seem to be suffering and the souls
Mm-hmm.
didn't make their way to the right place. So that
Mm-hmm.
just, I mean, to me it's still confusing. um I would have also liked to see more of how they're going to renew and rebuild moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to be refugees in Stormwind for the next 10 years? Like, the Cataclysm zones are still flooded, or is there going to be development as to what she does next? And I'm also
Mm-hmm.
really confused how Elune did not realize that Tyrande is rescuing souls from the Maw, calling upon her Night Warrior powers. Didn't she realize that this was going on? It just feels like the goddess is sometimes conveniently very attuned and then conveniently not present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
And I
um,
think even if it is the case, even if it's accepted that, well, okay, she had no way of knowing, so she just simply didn't know, then I still feel like Tyrande could. I don't know. Is she not in the right to still question that a little bit, or like even out of emotion? Like, well, how could you let that happen? The souls didn't even end up where you wanted them to be. I think I would have liked to see that happen rather than just, oh, that's it. That's the reason. Yeah, I accept that. Okay.
yeah.
I think
Even if I say,
like no
go ahead,
no
sorry.
restraints whatsoever. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even if I could justify it as, oh, well, she's the high priestess of Elune, she clearly has this relationship that we don't totally understand. She's the night warrior. Elune tried to save her. The favored race. They have a special connection. It's still, when you read through the lines, you're like, well, what isn't Tyrande talking about? Tyrande is not talking about Sylvanas anymore, or what happens in sanctum of domination. And it's like, well,
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
like Tyrande is going like super aggro, death to Sylvanas, the end, and now it's like she just doesn't she's just not even talking about them. Like it just is not on her radar. And to me that's confusing. Like, yes, she maybe after she's has balance, she doesn't want to be, sacrifice herself for the death of Sylvanas, but she I think would be interested to know that Sylvanas is being held captive. Like you think that she would have a reaction to all that, or that the jailer has escaped, or that I forgive Elune for not intervening more, but I'm still mad that Sylvanas had the idea to invade our lands. Like all that
That's
whole
true too, because
yeah.
regardless of Alune's say in this or comments in this, if she felt angry with Sylvanas, then she should still be angry. Is she still angry?
Yeah, like, we go from that cinematic where Elune is preventing Tyrande from getting vengeance on Sylvanas. And yeah, maybe Tyrande was acting in like an unhealthy, fixated way, but it seems weird that Tyrande doesn't even acknowledge the end of the raid, or Sylvanas at all. Like that to me,
Yeah.
it's like one extreme to the other. And it's like, well, shouldn't she be focused on renewal, but wanting to have justice for Sylvanas, or doing what's fair, or even something like, while I forgive, Mother Elune, I still, there's still unfinished business with Sylvanas, or, while I can't forgive Sylvanas, it's interesting the jailer's hold on her. Like, I need time to think about this. Like, it's just weird that this doesn't even get mentioned in the dialogue. So,
Yeah, that's true. And her last line here with Shandris, she says, "No more looking to the past. It is time to embrace our future." So yeah, it is as if she just kind of forgot about Sylvanas.
yeah, this is like, yeah. So to me, it just seems also just not a good sign of leadership. Like to just, like your tree birds, and you're like, okay, no more looking to the past. Time for our
Yeah,
future.
because
Especially if the person that burned down your tree is still like alive and captured. Like you think you'd be
mm-hmm,
interested in that to prevent this from happening again. And it's also
mm-hmm.
kind of selfish. Like obviously no characters are perfect, but it seems that Tyrande goes from being really upset that no one seems to care about Teldrassil. Like that's why she was so upset with Anduin. She thought she was skeptical of the Fourth War Treaty, and now it's like, okay, time to move on. Like now she's the one that's not caring about the events happening to others in the patch. So
Yeah, mm-hmm.
I definitely feel this needs like more of an emphasis, like just burning down a race's homeland. That's such a big decision, that to just sort of do little story and dialogue here and there, it's really, it's kind of messy. Like this isn't. I don't think this is a great topic to adapt into an MMO.
Yeah. I feel like a lot more conversations would have probably been needed to paint the full picture properly, and it feels a little bit like there's very limited moments where
Mm.
comments can be made, and I think that's the part that kind of breaks it a little bit. And I think Tyrande seeing what happened to Sylvanas in in Sanctum of Domination, in combination with learning about Elune, I think maybe together it would feel a bit more complete. Um,
Yeah,
not
like
sure.
I could even see if Tyrande is, so old and mature. Tyrande could be like, oh, if Sylvanas was manipulated by the jailer, if she was herself, but not, but also possessed by this magic, hey, I was the Night Warrior, I too was possessed. Like, I think she did the wrong thing, but, I'm not going to be too hasty. Like, I could see, I think that could be an interesting parallel. Like, I think that she definitely should still have opinions on Sylvanas, as opposed
Yeah,
to
yeah, exactly. Like
not
maybe not
caring
full
about it.
anger, but still
Yeah.
opinions. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
she
and I
wasn't at
mean,
the end of the raid. Maybe it means she'll come later to see
yeah.
things.
I mean, she did raise a lot of good points in BFA, like, why is Anduin not caring about the Night Elf lands?
Yeah.
Why, this war is over, but, the Alliance didn't start any of it, and, now we have to have the peace terms. Like, she's skeptical about a lot of things that make sense, and I hope it's not just written off as like, oh, that was Tyrande when she was, in, like, angry mode,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm happy that that this dialogue does help, but I think it just needs more uh development. Because it does seem a bit Game of Thrones, like, oh, we have to get Tyrande from being super angry to um
Yeah.
super renewal and Zen, and it's like, yeah, we got her there, but it feels like we missed the journey and the character development and filling in all the blanks along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Indeed.
yeah. Another dialogue we have, which is an interesting parallel, is Kel'Thas and the Accuser. And I think this is an interesting parallel because, um, we have these leaders that are really emotional about the fall of their, kingdom lands, and, wishing they could do more. And, Tyrande formerly wanted to be the one to defeat Sylvanas,
Yeah.
and in this dialogue, we see that Kel'Thas wanted to be the one to defeat Kel'Thuzad.
Yeah.
So some interesting parallels there about like needing to choose renewal and forgiveness. Um, this one to
Mm-hmm.
me made a bit more sense. I found this one more satisfying.
Oh yeah.
Um,
It feels more complete.
yeah, because we've had like so much of Kael'thas and the Accuser butting heads, and him being really prideful. And you can see he's meant to be a flawed character that is trying to learn how to deal with his excess pride.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I thought with how much the Accuser is harsh on him, it was really meaningful when she was saying that, like, forgive yourself for this. Like, it's not your fault that you weren't at Silvermoon. Like, you would not have been able to single-handedly, um, stop what happened there. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was kind of a cool emotional moment there.
Yeah. Not for sure.
Yeah.
And this is
Um,
the conversation that's up here. So you can
mhm.
see with the line, where is the specific line?
No, a
Here,
second
Kelta
to the
says,
end. Yeah.
yeah, and even straight up at the beginning, he says, I should have been the one to claim vengeance. And yeah, I think it does feel pretty complete for Kelthas.
Yeah. And there definitely does seem to be this theme of like the, justice or renewal versus vengeance. We saw this with, Uther throwing Arthas into the maw, Tyrande wanting to defeat Sylvanas, Kael'thas with Kel'Thuzad, like all
True,
these
a
big
lot of
flashy
those. Mm-hmm.
actions that are like it would be satisfying in the moment, or like, I guess even Garrosh, defeating Painsmith, like, he does
Yeah.
vengeance was like really satisfying, but then there could be issues caused in the long term, and that person may still not be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, uh, Kalthos, what if he did defeat Kel'Thuzad? Like, would have just been like a Tyrande and Nathanos situation where you still feel empty because it's not going to bring back your kingdom.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. It doesn't change anything.
yeah, but yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to see more with Kel'Thas. I think that the way his character has been written in Shadowlands has been pretty interesting. Um, there's a lot of humor in his lines, and
Yep.
he has good dialogue with Vosh and the Accuser. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, we keep seeing him
It's been cool to
in
have him in
Revendreth.
general here in Shadowlands.
Yeah. So, and it's also interesting. It makes you think about how long the story was planned out, because the Blood Elf quest line, for the heritage armor, takes you to the fall of Silvermoon, and you learn about important facts such as um Arthas raising Kel'Thuzad as a lich in the Sunwell, And then because the Sunwell
Mm-hmm.
was corrupted, Kael had to make the difficult decision to destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, obviously not everyone is, if you're not a blood elf, you haven't done this, but I think it's nice how they're trying to put these like very important character defining moments that took place before the game into the game in some way. So when, Kael'thas is really upset about Kel'Thuzad, it's not a total surprise for a newer player. They might say, "Oh, I experienced a while back why he has history with this character."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true.
So, yeah. So that was another interesting dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another one, which I thought was not going to happen because of how cliches work, is that the Mograine father and son were
Oh yeah.
reunited,
Mm-hmm.
and they briefly met in Oribos at the start of Shadowlands, and they're like, "Oh, we have stuff to do. When this is all over, we'll catch up." And normally, when characters like
When you
they don't
say
catch up,
that,
like
yeah, they don't catch up.
yeah, it's like the bad thing happens. But they did
Yep.
meet up, so that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, they are discussing Tyrion Fordring, which Alexandros, he had the Ashbringer, so he's very interested to learn that Tyrion um then wielded the Ashbringer,
Mm-hmm.
especially at the Battle for Light's Hope, which helped, turn the Death Knights. He had Ashbringer. You know, he met the Lich King in battle, shattered Frostmourne itself. So, obviously the father is really interested to know what happens to this weapon.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of laughed when I read this. Like, you know, you sought to raise him into undeath. Why deny him the rest he had earned? And Darian's like, we needed a fourth horseman, one to lead the others. He seemed the right choice. Like, I
Yep.
know it's super serious, but just something about that
It just
exchange, like it just
simplifies
it
it
just
so
made me
much.
laugh.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's cool. My friend is using Ashbringer, and then you turned him into a Death Knight. Like, it's just like WTF.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, well, we need a
like,
fourth horseman, I mean,
yeah,
important stuff.
yeah. I get to see like really awkward family conversation. um,
Mm-hmm.
so, but yeah, I mean, overall, I think it was an interesting conversation. Um, like those characters have both been through a lot of twists and turns and interesting discussions about legacy. Like they tried really hard not to have a certain, avoiding fate. And now the son is a Death Knight, and it's just again another thread about forgiveness. The
Yep.
father is saying, "This is not the legacy I meant to leave you," and the son is like, "You taught me to defend that which I hold dear. I am proud to carry on such a legacy." So, I mean, so far all the conversations so far have been kind of like taking almost like taking care of yourself and not being too harsh, like knowing what's in your control or like what is the thing that's actually important, like how do you define yourself through your actions? And it's like, yeah, I did not plan on being a Death Knight, but I still have your values, so like I'm still honoring your legacy. um Again, like Tyrande didn't get to defeat Sylvanas, but she's the ruler of the Night Elves. She needs
Yeah.
to focus on being a leader and renewal, or, Kael'thas should not be upset with himself for the fall of Silvermoon. So a lot of these conversations, I think,
Mm-hmm.
have a similar kind of like vibe of like forgiveness, or renewal and not hating yourself. So I mean, I think that, a lot of these side quests have really kind of positive, interesting things to say.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good point and interesting as well why it was made in that way because it feels like it's been a lot of almost like teaching
Yeah.
the viewers or the readers, the players on life choices, and I guess that's because that's what goes behind deciding where the souls end up after death. So then all these deep topics kind of became very important, And I think that's actually interesting if you think about it, like now in hindsight, that there is so much to do with, I guess, morals in a way. And we got to see a little bit of that from the very first, or one of the first cinematics with Devos even,
Mm.
with Devos and Uther. And yeah, it seems like it's an ongoing theme since then, actually.
Yeah, I also feel that a lot of these characters are realizing that they have a second chance to reconnect and
Mm-hmm.
reflect on things. And that seems to be a common theme, that they thought they just have to go through their lives on one track, and now
Yep.
it's like, the son gets to meet up with his father. He just thought the father was gone. Kalthos gets to actually learn that Kel'Thuzad was defeated for good. Tyrande actually gets her answers, and sees that there's this realm that the night elves are apparently designed to serve when they pass away. Like, all these characters seem to learn something new and beneficial, and it seems that they don't want to let go of their choice. Even Thrall meeting his mom, now they have a lot of heartwarming, difficult talks. Like, none of these
Mm-hmm.
characters seem to want to be immature and squander these opportunities that they didn't think, were possible before this expansion.
Yep.
Um, One conversation that is not heartwarming, that's kind of alarming. Yeah.
Yep.
Um yeah. Um Mal'Ganis has escaped. Oops.
Yep. Whoopsie.
Yeah, he leaves us a book behind, a Ventertome, and he says, "Did you truly believe you were my only means of escape, mortal? I offered you an opportunity, one that you refused. You will pay the price for crossing me. There are more important matters that demand my attention." So we've got him on the loose, and we've got Sire Denathrius on the loose, and
Yep.
yeah, this seems like a 9-2, 9-3 situation on our hands.
Yep. Definitely. Do you still think we're gonna have a 9-3?
I mean, I don't. I'm not sure. Like, I mean, COVID is still a thing in the United States.
Yeah.
I actually saw some Blizzard employees tweeting about moving and now working from home in different states.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So, there may still be some working, like, they may be continuing working from home.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I think that they're going to end it with 9-2, but I also think that if they're realizing that the whole, like, expansions, are a lot more hype and money and subscriber peak, why even do patches? I feel like maybe they could use the Shadowlands disruption as an opportunity to, like, rebrand how they do expansions, or just sort of
Yeah, I
reinvent the
see what you
wheel.
mean. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's been
Like,
kind of a similar way of how the patches have been out lately. So that's true. It could maybe be a different system of maybe not big patches that take a long time that has a lot of things, but instead maybe smaller patches to get things rolling faster, maybe.
yeah, like, maybe we need a story patch, but we don't need some, like, complex new system like corruption or shards to go along with it.
Yeah, that
Maybe
would save a lot of
they're like, oh,
time.
that takes a while with, if people are hungry for story stuff and they like discussing that stuff, and that's faster than all the balancing. Like, maybe we have more of those
Mm-hmm.
updates, and we rethink how we do systems, especially if the system can't be reused in the future.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
so
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think with Dreadlords on the loose, that also um I do think that there's still an opportunity to see Arthas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially with, Sylvanas' soul fused, Uther's soul is now stabilized, the Dreadlords are on the loose, kind of how we saw Kalthas was upset he couldn't kill Kel'Thuzad.
Mm-hmm.
You have to wonder what the remains of Arthur's soul is thinking, because Mal'Ganis was defeated in Culling of Stratholme. Like, you have to just, a lot of characters are very upset this Dreadlord is on the loose.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, I would also be down for more Sire Denathrius appearances.
I like
You know,
Denatrius.
Yeah, I think that sometimes the cosmic lore can be a bit difficult, sort of difficult and approachable for players to understand. But Sire Denathrius, I think, would be a good character that could explain all this to to the player, because
Mm-hmm.
he has ties to the jailer. The Dreadlords did a lot of drama behind the scenes with the cosmic forces. Um, he could explain a lot of these kind of high level things in a way I think that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
More
I think
so
so
than,
too.
like brokers or like charts, which can make some people feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Um, I think Denathus being like, oh, so the jailer promised me like this is part of his plan, so I decided to meddle with this pantheon, and in my research I found this other one. I think that would be uh that would be a very kind of palatable, interesting way for people to understand more of the cosmic stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. Denathrius is just a good talker. So
Yeah.
no matter what he says, it'll be very much understood by everyone. So it would be a great character to have to explain what the hell is going on.
Yeah, and it could also fill in the blanks of like, when did he turn to serve the jailer? Was he
Mm-hmm.
always secretly allied with him? Like, what does the
Mm-hmm.
jailer even want? What made the current arbiter break in the cycle of death?
Mm-hmm.
I think that he could be, as someone that was close to the jailer,
Mm-hmm.
and like the most
And
interesting villain. Like,
less confused than
yeah.
Sylvanas also, I feel.
Yeah, like I think he would be a good narrator for this sort of thing, more so than, like, oh, ha ha ha, I am Kel'Thuzad, I am evil, I will monologue at
Yeah.
you. I think that
Yeah.
Denathrius has a lot more charisma. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I do think 9-2 could be something like, well, we'll get to this in our next topic. Actually, good order I put things
Yeah,
in, but I feel like
this is
9-2 could
fitting.
be like Dreadlords, maybe Arthas, and then also this new zone that was being teased in a conversation with Venari.
Yeah, let's put that conversation up here.
Yeah.
Venari. There we go.
Yeah.
Greetings, my friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a
So
few hints in here.
yeah, so the line that's making people think is the phrase, I imagine this conversation is merely a pretext for you to inquire what I know of Zareth Mortis. And
Mm-hmm. And this is the fourth line
yeah.
here.
Mm-hmm. And then Venari says, do you not long to see the realm of the first ones for yourself? And then Tal Galan says, one day perhaps, if the purpose wills it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've learned that there is this brand new zone called Zareth Mortis. It's a realm of the first ones. Based on broker research in the Grimoire of the Shadowlands, the word Zareth, according to them, means cornerstone or keystone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. It's obviously something very important to the first ones.
Yep.
Uh, Mortis is the Latin word for death, which ties into the Shadowlands. So is this going to be like Keystone of Death? Is that what the zone means? That sounds pretty ominous.
Keystone.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and then is this like the realm where that created all the Shadowlands? Uh, is this
Mm.
going to be like
Mm-hmm.
some like the I don't know, kind of like some Titanic chamber, but the death equivalent of it?
Yeah.
And Zareth sounds like Azeroth. Like it's spelled in a very similar way.
Yeah, that's actually true as well. And especially when it was put together, like if you add an A first, so A
Hmm.
Zareth, it
Yeah.
definitely becomes very similar to Azeroth.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, are they like sort of parallel places?
Mm-hmm.
Why does everyone want to get their hands on Azeroth? Why does the jailer care about Azeroth? Why does Sargeras care about Azeroth? Why does the
Yeah.
Burning Legion care? Like, why is the Void going to corrupt it? Why is there a sword in it? Why is everyone obsessed with Azeroth? So, if this, it seems if they have very similar names, and we know that Azeroth is important to all these cosmic forces, it does
Mm-hmm.
make you wonder if this is related to Azeroth in some way, or if it's like I don't know, like a parallel, some sort of like dimension of Azeroth as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Oh. Hmm. Okay.
Um,
Weird. Let me put that up.
but, but yeah, so with let's see, I accidentally, here we go. There we go. Faces are back now.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah.
okay. It was all right. We're back.
Yeah, we had a little tech difficulty thing, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's fixed now. Um, yeah, the next, or wait, did we want to comment a bit more on Zareth?
I think that is a good place for the 9-2 zone. I think it makes sense why the jailer wants to go to an area that's called like the Keystone of Death.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if he wants to like unmake the Shadowlands, it seems that going to a place that is the, cornerstone of death seems to
Yeah.
be a good place where you would dismantle the Shadowlands. So yeah. I just hope that when we do see it, it is less like Korthia and more has some new architecture. Maybe some Titan influences
I
that
hope
could
so
be cool.
too, because I mean, I do think Korthia is pretty cool in itself, but
Yeah.
in terms of what we see, it still feels like we're still in the mall. So it
Yeah.
would be cool to have something that's aesthetically a bit different.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
next
so
snippet here.
this is our final lore snippet, and I think it was the most um well, I guess the Teldrassil one was too, but this got a lot of discussion because it related to Sylvanas directly. So
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's an important character. It's Uther
yeah.
again. And
Yeah.
yeah, parallels can be drawn as well. So the interesting thing here is it's discussing the feeling of the different souls. I think, Perk, it's best if you explain it so I don't say something wrong.
So Uther, as we saw in Afterlife's Bastion,
Mm-hmm.
in the introduction, when Arthas killed him and his soul went to Frostmourne, his soul was split in two. And Uther comments on this because we then retrieve that part of his soul in last week's Covenant campaign chapter. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's that whole room of souls in Torghast, and we can only take Uther's fragment.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, when Arthas struck me down, Frostmourne shattered my soul, but it was not divided into one part that was noble and another that was cruel.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
that's a really
interesting.
interesting one. Mm-hmm.
Right, because people assumed that, based on that fairy tales of Azeroth, where it's talking about how one part of Sylvanas' soul that was, courageous, people assumed that, if one part was courage, like another part was, evil Sylvanas burning stuff.
Yeah.
So, but that, that theory had cracks. So you're like, well, Sylvanas, still like the Forsaken, or Uther, um, still did a lot of, good things in the afterlife. It wasn't, like some sort of, uh, good person, then you lose your soul and you're like, you lose your memories and now you're evil. So continuing on, he says, rather, it was as if a portion of my consciousness remained frozen in time while the rest of my soul carried on. To feel that missing fragment restored, while it has caused me to reflect upon many of the choices I have made.
Mm-hmm.
So this is basically saying that like one part of your consciousness is just sort of like frozen at like the moment of like peak anger and sorrow and vengeance,
Mm-hmm.
um and then you're not fully in control of your facilities. Like you remember stuff from your past, but like you're just sort of perpetually in this heightened upset frame uh of mind, like
Mm-hmm.
frozen in time at the moment of your death, which at the hands of Frostmourne was extremely miserable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
um and then Uther has reflected that, now that my soul is more balanced, now I would handle things differently now that I have like more of my memories and like judgment and perspective back. But
Full
it wasn't as
perspective of
if,
everything. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it wasn't as if like Uther had the good part of his soul taken away and he only did evil things and he had
Yeah.
no recollection of his life. It's like he had his memories, but he was viewing them through this hyper vengeance lens, which, it's he definitely has accountability for
Mm-hmm.
these things. He's just saying, I would have reacted differently um
Yeah,
if
because you
if I
have the
was like
full
fully in
picture.
control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like just knowing exactly what's going on instead of metaphorically being somewhat maybe not fully seeing, maybe a little bit partially blind, maybe colorblind in terms of sight, and maybe in terms of hearing it's like something else. If you imagine like that, but in terms of thoughts instead, so you don't see the full picture, but you are still there and you still have all your memories. And I think that is really interesting because, like you said, a lot of us were concerned that with Sylvanas' soul, that story coming out, that it would mean that her good part was in that soul, and that's why she's been so bad, which means that her decisions weren't really hers because her soul was gone. But
Right.
now it seems it's a bit more like a part of her was gone, but not necessarily all the good parts. She
Yeah.
still made those decisions, and it's still her. I mean, she might have had a little bit less perspective. With more perspective, she might have chosen differently, but she still would have had probably similar interests
Yeah.
in her
I think it
goals.
shows how evil the jailer really is because if you're sort of stuck in this state of like permanent rage and discomfort and all you can think about is, you know, wanting vengeance, like never being satisfied, just sort of acting spur of the moment in, self-defense, that sort of erodes your character over time. So then you get something like, gee, Uther's acting all out of character, he's flinging Arthas into the maw.
Mm-hmm.
um but it's almost like he purposely warps you to keep you in this um uncomfortable, like heightened anxiety attack, and then
Yeah.
you act
That's a
like you're
good way
you're
to
in
describe it.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're just making all your decisions from this agitated frame of mind, and then looking back you're like, gee, like, I have to own this, but I acted in a disappointing way.
Mm-hmm.
um and that also makes sense when you look back at Anduin's the cutscene with Sylvanas when he's all like, well, yeah, even if the jailer has a plan, like you're going to lose yourself by the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sylvanas may have been such a strong character that when she is put in this frame of mind, like she wants to take action, save herself at all costs. She'll do whatever it takes. She's very much someone that will, you know, not sympathetic. She needs to get the job done, and then that
Mm-hmm.
gets more and more warped. Like, even as that her mount flavor text says, like, part of her soul was empty and it got filled
Yeah.
by vengeance.
Mm-hmm.
So, Uther might be overwhelmed by feelings of betrayal, and then he throws Arthas into the maw, and then Sylvanas is, consumed by this need for vengeance and saving herself, and then she's permanently in the state of mind, and that's where all of her actions come from.
Yeah, that's a good way
And
of
now
putting
that
it too. It leaves space for her to be consumed because of
yeah,
partial missing. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So it's not going to be Sylvanas is going to wake up and be like, "Oh, I did Teldrassil. I'm so confused." Like that's not
Mm-hmm.
how it's going to work. Like she is going to be reflecting on these and be like, well, I mean, we don't know how it's going to turn out, but it seems that she
It leaves
may,
more space for
yeah,
things.
she
Mm-hmm.
may feel differently about some uh events that happened in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and I assume she'll be also pretty upset that she feels betrayed by the jailer. Um,
Yeah.
so not only that the partnership was not a true partnership, but also that like he took part of her soul, like he was the one responsible
Yeah.
for all this. So yes, her actions were her own, but she may have acted differently if the jailer hadn't taken part of her soul.
Yeah, because she might have emotionally been somewhere else, but decisions were still made with her best interest at heart.
Yeah. So I found that that whole clarification pretty interesting. Like you can definitely say, Sylvanas was manipulated, or the jailer made her, the jailer set up a situation where she did things that maybe she wouldn't do if she knew the full story. But it's less this cartoonist,
I had
he
no
hid the good parts,
idea.
and
Yeah.
yeah, because like she did do a lot of interesting things. Like we said in previous things, how do you reconcile a good part of her soul hidden away if the character Sylvanas people fell in love with was the version that had the soul split by the jailer. The
Mm-hmm.
heroic one that was trying to lead the Forsaken, um, protect her people, really proud of leading them,
Mm-hmm.
showing compassion, feeling very upset when betrayed by her sisters. That was also Sylvanas.
Yep.
So, this shows that even though the jailer did try to hide part of her soul, she still had this like very fierce need for survival, and over time that got more warped into helping the jailer. But early
Mm-hmm.
on, even though her soul was not complete, she was still, doing things that were for survival and helped those around her. So I'm more optimistic about her story. I think that maybe something like this would be interesting to see when the raid happened, or like the Anduin cutscene. Like these were pieces that maybe we didn't
Yeah.
need to wait a month for. Um, but yeah, I did like this dialogue. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it takes away that risk of feeling like Sylvanas was an empty shell and it wasn't really her. I think it's good
right,
that it's still her, but sure, there was a little bit of string pulling in the sense that she was empty, which made her be more easily consumed by things.
yeah,
I think that's an okay thing to accept.
yeah. So
That was the last bit of
I
lore for now. Yeah,
yeah.
you had
So
a
we've got
comment?
a 915 quick speculation thing, and then we've got a few lawsuit updates. The
Mm-hmm.
915 update is
Did you have another
basically.
comment before I cut you off, or were you good?
Oh, no, just that I was excited. I'm actually excited for the Sylvanas book. And yeah, I just wish
Ah.
Blizzard, organized the bits of information in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like they purposely try to set things up to look uh
Mysterious.
misleading, or like
Mm. Mm-hmm.
to agitate people, and then you're like, oh, you know, that's cool. We learned about the soul working differently, or
Mm-hmm.
oh, Anduin and Sylvanas had this talk before the raid, like this explains the compass. Like I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that some
yeah.
of those details could have been better organized. Like,
Yeah, I see
I
what you
want
mean.
I want less
Mm-hmm.
mystery.
Mm-hmm. Like presented a bit more straightforward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this 915 thing. There was a file, and it's not super exciting. It's about some add-on stuff. But it talks about how some add-on functions will be deprecated or removed in patch 915. Um, and this was added to a file related to the Burning Crusade development. So that could be a hint that like maybe Phase 2 stuff and 915 are happening, uh, pretty close by to each other. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, we
Do
don't
we
know
know
too
when
much
phase
about this.
two was?
We don't know when Phase 2 is, which, a lot of people are speculating that with how Blizzard is doing things super fast, who
Yeah.
knows, maybe Phase 2 will be, Labor Day weekend for the US, because that's always like a big US holiday. People have more
Oh
time to play
yeah.
games.
Mm-hmm. We
I
mentioned the
think
last show as well, right?
yeah, I think yeah, Classic came out then. They announced the first Shadowlands release date around then, which then got pushed back at Gamescom.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel that I think that especially with New World being delayed from that time slot, Blizzard is going to try to do something then. Like, we have the 2 Diablo weekends. Then we've got like stuff in September, so I think that phase 2 could make sense to do it in end of August.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, Blizzard is behind schedule with their uh, development. Normally, whenever there's the raid, we get like a little bit of a grace period, but then we see stuff pop up on the PTR, and we've kind of hit the end of the Covenant campaign, and people don't really know what's coming next. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think it would be good to hear some details, especially if we're hinting like, oh, we're gonna go to this new Zareth zone, or we're going to I'm hyped about this character dialogue. Like, I want to see what happens. I feel like 915 is probably going to be more of a utility patch like 905, and not be the big new zone, but maybe it will, I don't know, do things like Brawlers Guild, or like, mini games, or
Yeah.
I don't know, like beef up time walking, stuff like that. But
I think
I'm
a lot of
also
people would like
interested.
to see some time walking things actually.
Yeah, with the whole debacle
Yeah, with the
surrounding
recent
the
experience thing.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do think it'll be interesting how Blizzard goes about promoting 915, because for Shadowlands, and I want to say even 905 stuff, they were trying to be more hands-on, at least before they got overwhelmed with work, doing a lot of the streamer interviews, and doing developer weekly updates. And I feel that it might be weird if they just do like a straight 915 introduction video without acknowledging the issues surrounding the company.
Mm-hmm.
um so also, but even without the lawsuit, uh, things are more delayed than people expect. So that's another elephant in the room that I think, if they do any sort of like patch video, should be addressed. Like, here's things we're trying to do on Team 2 to improve with the lawsuit. Also, you know, uh, we realize stuff has been late, but we're trying to do a point 0.5 patch to get you some content out sooner than
Mm-hmm.
later. Um,
What
I think could be
about
interesting.
yeah? What about the mega dungeon Tazavish? Do you expect the Mythic Plus to be out for 915 or 92?
I mean, if 9.2 is taking a while to develop, I could see that being like a 915 thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to keep interest in that going.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I could see moving some stuff like that up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, sooner than later.
Because of
Uh,
timing. Yeah, I think that makes
yeah.
sense. Like if a major patch is going to take too long, even if that would have been the initial plan, it could make sense to move it to a point 0.5 because it's not a whole like game changer, but it's a nice thing that people might enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that would affect like the Blizzard IO score, all that
Oh
stuff,
yeah,
but
that's true. Yeah, now with the score going on.
yeah, I mean, maybe that would be weird, but maybe there's other stuff they could move up, just to keep people interested. Alt friendly mechanisms, of course, would be interesting and appreciated, especially with the Covenant campaign over.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, makes things go faster now that none of the content is new and fresh. It's all
Mm-hmm.
getting old in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it would be good if the like rewards from time walking and like the weekly dungeon event were also bumped up in item level, because in those point 0.5 patches, like all that gear kind of lags behind, and you're just like, oh, this is pointless. Like, I don't care about
Yeah.
this type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm curious to see what they're going to announce, and also I hope they touch upon the scheduling, as well as the lawsuit stuff, which is also connected, especially if people are uh, being let go,
Yeah, there's been a lot of
walkouts.
changes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I just hope they strike a good tone in how they introduce
Mm-hmm.
915.
Yeah, I hope so too. It must be a real mess over there with everything going on. Probably difficult for people to focus on what they're doing. Um, trying to
Yeah.
fight a war in a way for workers' conditions, and at the same time trying to get the work itself done. And yeah, no, it must be really tough being at Blizzard right now for the people who are still there, because like you said, some people are let go, and there's also some new people. They've expanded some teams, like we talked about last week, which is also really interesting. Hiring more people to the company, and yeah, uh,
Yeah,
it's
hiring, I
going
mean,
to
like,
be
that's a
see.
whole process. Like, they're hiring now, but it takes a while to review applications,
That's
and
true.
then, you have to move, and
Yeah,
then there's
could be something in
training.
6 months, realistically, at the least.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so definitely a lot of stuff going on. Hopefully there maybe they can even say that in a 915 video, like, we are moving from a working from home model. Some people are working in different states now,
Mm-hmm.
and we've realized that this part of our team needs more people, especially if you're working from home. So we are hiring as part of the 915 announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've also been seeing a
And now
lot of
you don't have
talk
to work
from.
here, so we can hire from anywhere.
Yeah, I've been
Mm-hmm.
seeing a lot of people on, like, on Twitter yesterday and today, ex-employees talking about how, Blizzard would say at meetings, "Oh, we're our pay, it balances out because Blizzard is such a great place to work." Um and the employees were saying that, they always felt kind of underpaid, and then when Riot started poaching everyone, then all of a sudden, like, they actually had bargaining power, like, well, Riot's prestigious and they're paying me a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And someone that went to Amazon Game Studios, New World, was like, because Amazon doesn't have a game shipped yet, it's not as prestigious, they're offering me, really sky high pay to work
Mm.
from them, more than I got at Blizzard in the same area. So I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people are at Blizzard are like, all these companies, some of which, yes, have workplace culture issues, um, at least they're gonna pay me more. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
that's the thing.
you know,
Like you can never be sure that you'll find a workplace, sadly, that where you'll be, free of any kind of problems, whether it's personal harassment or witnessing harassment of others. You can never be sure. I mean, I think we are going forward in society where the
mm,
general, or at least the bottom of things, is being raised. So like the worst places that people have been, 15 years ago, let's say, is not as bad today, but there's still like a lot of work that needs to be done. And if people can at the least not feel so pressured and worried about losing their homes by being paid more, at least that's some form of security. And I think also it's really good for anyone in that industry to, as nice as it sounds, staying loyal and work in the same place for 20 years, I think it's probably for the best of anyone to actually switch jobs every now and again. I think that sort of fresh feeling of getting to a new place and also feeling appreciated and having more people comment on your work, I think is probably a big boost to your own sense of accomplishments as well.
yeah, kind of as a transition from the 915 and hiring stuff into the lawsuit. Something I saw that was interesting on Twitter, I put it quickly into the notes, was Muffinus, the lead game designer on Warcraft. He had a tweet saying that he moved to Washington, which is, a pretty, it's, you know, uh, states, it's like it's bigger than Europe. Like, it's a pretty big move. You cannot work from Irvine. Uh, you cannot easily commute. And
Does that mean
he seemed
he's
really,
officially just working from home?
yeah, yeah, he says, feels we belonged here. Huge thanks to Team 2, the WoW team, leadership for embracing working from home culture and the future.
Mm.
So to me, we haven't heard much from WoW leadership directly, but if Team 2 leadership is doing things like dramatically hiring to expand the team, and now letting some people at the top work from other states,
Mm-hmm.
that does seem pretty big for Blizzard. uh and it could be a sense of bargaining power, like,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
we're
for
the
sure.
people on Team 2, Team 2's been in the crossfire with the lawsuit. We're the good people on Team 2 that haven't been, you know, we're still at the company. We haven't, we've conducted ourselves professionally. We would like some bargaining power to, uh, hire, have the team be stable, or, this studio is going to let me work from home, or, I can, like I could work from Wizards of the Coast, or I could work for D&D. Like I could live in Seattle, or I could work at Riot in LA and make more. I definitely feel like this whole conversation of worker rights and wages have given it sort of opened up how Blizzard's old structure did not really give the employees a ton of benefits or location perks.
That's really cool. Yeah, and like you mentioned, he specifically says thanks to Team Two leadership. So that means it's
Yeah.
the Warcraft team leadership that
Hmm.
has
Yeah.
allowed this to happen. That's really good. That's
Yeah.
really good.
So I know that the actual workers' rights, the four rights that they wanted, Activision Blizzard leadership has not addressed those yet. But I think that it's a good sign in the Warcraft team if
Mm-hmm.
a department that was historically like underhired and forcing you to live in Irvine. I think it's good that they are trying to enact change, but obviously, pushing for better policies and an impartial third party review. All these things are still important, but it's good to see that there's some change with how many other places
A bit more
have,
freedom.
yeah, working from home culture. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah. So with that news, we wanted to highlight the big lawsuit news of the last week, which was how
Yes.
uh, Kotaku broke the news that several high-profile employees at Blizzard Entertainment were let go. Let go being that means that the company removed
Remove
them.
them.
It's not like oh, I decided, randomly to take a break from this company. Um, and it was Diablo IV Game Director, the Blizzard lead level designer Jesse McCree, the namesake of the Overwatch hero, and World of Warcraft designer Jonathan LeCraft, who was he did a lot of the kind of lighthearted things on WoW, like he would do, fishing or Blingtron. Another like pretty veteran employee of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
And this is pretty huge.
yeah, like the game director leaving, that is big.
Yeah.
Um, so
Like game director for
uh,
Diablo 4. Like the game is not even out yet. And
yeah.
like that's risky, to in the middle of a big project which is not out yet to just be like, you know what, game director, you're out, and then having to then pick a new game director who may not have the exact same vision and everything. It's
Mm.
risky.
I wonder what the quarterly update's going to be like for Diablo 4. Like, they always
Yeah.
do those like big blog posts once a quarter. It's gonna be like, oh, um, yeah, well, our game director got fired.
Yeah,
But
so we had
yeah,
to get a new game director. So
yeah,
like, oh, no big deal, just
yeah.
probably one of the most highest roles there.
So this news broke when employees reached out to news sources saying that it seems like their accounts were deactivated in Slack and they were also removed from the Blizzard PR page.
Mm.
Um, like they were sort of scrubbed all over the place. Blizzard wrote back saying that they confirmed they're no longer with the company. And then they said, we have a deep, talented roster of developers already in place, and new leaders have been assigned where appropriate. We are confident in our ability to continue progress, deliver amazing experiences to our players, and move forward to ensure a safe, productive work environment for all.
Yeah.
So they didn't exactly call out the individual employees, but if you read between the lines, we're like, we want a safe, productive work environment. That sounds like it's in response to Bobby Kotick saying things like, we're removing people, we're holding people accountable, we're not just terminating employees that did things, but management that let this slide.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be what's happened here, that these people, maybe were in charge of things, even if they weren't the ones perpetrating things in the lawsuit that created a department that was
Mm-hmm.
not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to wonder if that's the case there, because the timing is pretty suspicious. Even people were speculating that Jesse McCree, for example, was in the that Cosby Suite
Oh
article.
yeah, he was in one of the
Um,
pictures, right?
yeah, he was the one that made the inappropriate joke about another dev's wife and Alex Afrasiabi.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't think it was just that, because the Diablo IV game director was not in those pictures. But
So there might be more things that
certainly,
surface that we may not even know about.
yeah, I mean, I certainly, that comment does not look good, but it seems that there's more things that we don't know about if people unrelated to the article were removed.
Also removed,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do have to wonder what they're going to do about the hero, because I heard that casters were trying not to say the hero's name, and if like,
Poor casters.
and it's like, if everything with Alex Afrasiabi got removed from the game, are they going to change everything this guy did? Um, like
Wait, so is the
even
hero
the
named
Legion,
after him?
yeah, even the Legion Argus zone of Macari, like Macari, that's him.
Hmm.
So I feel like it would be a lot of money to change the Overwatch hero, but um I think, like, one just lesson is, like, Blizzard should not just
Should
name
not
so
put
much stuff
names.
after
Yeah.
themselves.
I don't think they will anymore. Wow.
Like,
Yeah,
it's so
that's the big
egotistical.
deal.
Like, you're just, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like zones with slight name variations can like somewhat maybe just be left there. But when it's a hero, that's a big deal. That's like naming a class in WoW. Because it's always
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, there's just, I mean, I think at the start people are like, "Oh, that's so badass. They've always, in-game things. I wish, I could get an in-game item one day.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to be memorialized in this world." But in retrospect, you're
Yeah.
like, why are these devs just putting, like, dozens of references to themselves
Yeah, I don't think
into
they
the
will do
game?
that anymore.
Like, that's kind of excessive. So,
Yeah. I think
yeah.
if they would consider ever doing it for like out of respect for anything at all in general, it would probably be a very small thing, a very small item that doesn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things. I could see that happening, but I don't see like NPC names and things like that. I see like maybe
No.
a glove item or a pair of bracers or something like that maybe because that's easy to remove or rename without too many people realizing or noticing or feeling shocked about it. But when it's an NPC, when it's a hero in a game, that means people who are not even aware of anything going on are gonna log in and be like, "What? Why has my hero changed name suddenly?" So
Yeah.
that's very serious.
But yeah, so I mean, it definitely seems with the timing of this that these employees were let go, pending review. Oh, also, right, paw. He's like, serious, I'm here. Um, one second, let me
Oh,
pick him up. Come on,
yeah,
Bright
that's
Paw, we're
okay.
gonna pick you up. Ugh. Okay.
Like, Mom, what are you
Okay.
doing?
Okay, now we have a cat that's not putting his paw in my water.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I was going to say that in addition to these three people let go, which could affect, Diablo 4 timelines,
Yeah.
the article also reported that Corey Stockton, who was also present in the, Cosby Suite photographs and was friends with Alex Afrasiabi, that last week he deleted his Twitter, and that led people to investigate. And
Mm.
two Blizzard
Mm-hmm.
sources confirmed that he was put on leave last week, but was still affiliated with the company. So it appears that he is under some sort of review, but Pat hasn't been let go of, and he was in charge of, I think, some like WoW themed incubation project. One of the unannounced things.
Incubation. Okay.
Yeah, and on the
Mm-hmm.
earnings call, Blizzard was talking about how they had 2 Warcraft games that
Yep.
were like kind of,
Being tested internally, right?
yeah. So if he was in charge of one of them and he's, off on indefinite hiatus,
That might lead to more
that
delays.
yeah, obviously the worker rights come before the game delays, but it does you know, it does make you wonder what the timeline for that is now as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, um but yeah, it's just also important to keep in mind that the worker demands were not to fire like any one specific person and go on a witch hunt. They definitely want the culture to improve, but they're talking about things like salary or hiring practices, the things to improve things moving forward.
Yeah,
So,
people are forgetting that part, I think, a lot.
yeah,
What what is good to focus on at the moment are the
yeah,
workers who are still at Blizzard, who demand higher pay or better conditions in general at work. I think those things are really important
yeah.
still.
Like articles like this sound really shocking, and everyone's like, "Oh, is Diablo 4 delayed?" Or Blizzard's taking this seriously. They got rid of the person at the top, but we still want to know if the workers are getting their rights held. So this doesn't pop up again in a few years where they do poor hiring and then like there's another scandal where
Mm-hmm.
someone at the top looks the other way.
Mm-hmm.
um
Like, it's actually more
so
important to make sure that all these workers get better working environments and better pay than making sure that every single person who, might have taken any kind of part in it is fired. I mean, obviously, consequences are important too for anyone who did something bad, but getting those work conditions improved should be the highest priority.
yeah,
Oh, Britpop.
he's like,
Rolling
this is so
around.
serious. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be cute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's put you down, Bright. Okay. Oh no, did not intend for that. Right, Paul, you need to stay put. He has like 10 legs all of a sudden. How does he?
Oh,
He
yeah.
just like pulled my microphone wire. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um, focusing on the actual workers.
Yeah, which leads us
There
to
was
the
kind of
next
an
point here very
yeah,
nicely.
kind of uplifting article. 1,000 Ubisoft employees signed an open letter in solidarity with Activision Blizzard employees and their demands for a better work environment. Ubisoft had its own history of discrimination and misconduct,
That's
and
how
this
this started,
letter,
right? The A Better
yeah,
Ubisoft. So A Better Ubisoft
yeah,
was created by the employees at
hmm
Ubisoft and ex-employees
yeah,
perhaps as well,
yeah,
who were wanting to fight for for better conditions, better better workplace for everyone. And it's really nice to see that this sort of movement or group of people, A Better Ubisoft, is also coming in solidarity with a better Activision Blizzard to also help demand the changes for the Blizzard people too. And I think this is a great example of how the industry as a whole is causing waves and effects everywhere and getting together and having their voices become louder. This is the kind of
yeah.
thing that you as a person can also support by following what these groups are doing and supporting whatever things that they are talking about.
Yeah. So they had a tweet with their key demands. And it was, stop promoting and protecting known offenders. Um, they want a meaningful say in how Ubisoft moves forward. They don't just want management to make decisions. They would like cross-industry collaboration to agree on a set of ground rules, because this isn't just like one studio issue. Um, and they want people in non-management positions as well as union representatives to be part of this system. Um, so I think it's good that their demands are to build something across the gaming industry because yes, the focus is on Blizzard right now, but this is something affecting so many studios. Like we're probably gonna have one pop up in a few months that is
Yeah,
not Blizzard, that's gonna sound almost exactly the same. So,
yeah.
um, but yeah, like this
I mean,
letter
we
started off
we
by
have
saying,
We
We
even
hear
had that
you, and
case. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. I was
It
gonna
was
say it
just
starts
a
off by
small
saying,
comment.
"Oh yeah, sorry, we keep talking over each other. You go ahead."
There's a small Discord delay, so if you
Yeah,
guys get confused at this, we hear each other like a second or two after each other. So when we think the other one
yeah,
is pausing, yeah, that's why it becomes awkward. Um, I was gonna throw in a quick comment about how even Square Enix had that worker who came out with their story a few weeks
oh
ago
yeah,
about their time at Square Enix during Stormblood. So like this is not new. This is not unique to one company. This is something that happens overall, and the thing that we can try to focus on is helping these movements that are putting an effort into improving over multiple companies, multiple places. And yeah, that was it. You can go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so this letter started off by saying to the workers of Activision Blizzard, "We hear you and want to loudly declare our solidarity with you. Over the past week, the games industry has once again been rocked by revelations that have long been known by too many of us. Revelations that a year ago many were hearing about Ubisoft. It is clear from the frequency of these reports that there is a widespread and deeply ingrained culture of abusive behavior within the industry. It should no longer be a surprise to anyone, employees, executives, journalists, or fans, that these heinous acts are going on. It is time to stop being shocked. We must demand real steps be taken to prevent them. Those responsible must be held accountable for their actions. We believe you, we stand with you, and support you." And then they had a letter to Ubisoft management being like, it's been a year. Um, you've said a lot of kind words, but we need to see action. So they're similar to Blizzard. Bobby Kotick saying a bunch of really nice stuff, but it's like, where's the action?
So Ubisoft
Where is
still
the action?
feels like there hasn't been any actions.
Yeah.
Mm,
They're saying,
that's
we have
sad.
seen nothing more than a year of kind words, empty promises, and inability or unwillingness to remove known offenders. We no longer trust your commitment to address these issues at their core. You need
Oh, even
to do
inability
more.
to remove. Oh,
Yeah. So I guess
because
that's
that's one thing Blizzard
Blizzard's
is
saying.
doing better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because Blizzard is definitely removing people, even people that we don't know the full story of.
Right. Yeah. Um, so they basically said, to this end, we propose that Activision Blizzard, Ubisoft, and other industry leading publishers and developers collaborate and agree to a set of rules and processes for handling reports of these offenses. So it's almost like it's not a traditional union, but it does seem that they're kind of moving in the spirit of a union, how they would like
Yeah.
people from studios to collaborate and set standards so they're not mistreated and paid
Mm-hmm.
fairly.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think this is a positive thing because it focuses again on bettering conditions for workers, and it's
Mm-hmm.
across the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, Square Enix had something, Riot's had their lawsuit, Ubisoft had this last year, now Blizzard. Um, it's like all of these studios have um, problems that stem back to a culture that was less professional. You know, in the very recent past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's good that other studios are standing up in solidarity, especially when management is not really taking much definitive action.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
um,
maybe since the state of California was involved with this, specifically to do with the Blizzard one, maybe that's also helpful in terms of things being more serious. And
yeah.
because I saw a comment in the chat, and it's true, a lot of the improvements that are needed may even be on a sort of government level. Because, first
Hmm.
of all, it's not only in the gaming industry. And second of all, it's sometimes. Even if you would succeed in making one company good, it doesn't force every other company to be good as well. So, especially smaller companies who have less eyes on them still have the freedom of abusing people, and that can still be a big issue. But
Yeah, that's very true, especially with how we're seeing so many ex Blizzard little studios pop up. It's like,
yeah,
well, how are we meant to trust you guys to do
yep,
something better if they're smaller? And still have that like rock star revered glow about you with old
Exactly.
school fans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I even saw a Blizzard employee on Twitter today sharing a recruiter email where the Blizzard recruiter's like, "Oh, why are you like tweeting so many negative things? Like, why don't you focus on like the good things that the coalition has done, like the changes? Like, why are you just focusing on negative things? You're scaring away potential recruits." And the person's like, "Well, like they haven't addressed our concerns. Like,
Yeah.
what do you want me to do?" And it's like
Yeah, of course.
it's just it's just like it's just the email had like winky tongue sticking out emojis from the recruiter. I'm like, this is so tone deaf. Like,
Yeah.
please don't do this. Um, but yeah, for a final lawsuit piece, I wanted to highlight that the SOC Investment Group um, wrote a letter to Activision Blizzard petitioning for more improvements. And this was the group that put the pressure on Bobby Kotick not to have such an extremely high salary. They are a
Mm.
union
And they
pension
succeeded,
fund.
right?
Yeah,
Well,
they
in some
generated a lot
effect.
of PR,
Mm-hmm.
and then they critiqued his incentive based pay, and
Mm-hmm.
then that was right before he cut his salary by 50% earlier this year.
Yeah.
So they can't directly have a
No.
say with
No.
what happens, but I think it's really good for something that, investment group in headline and pushing for change, I think is a positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this investment group um was saying, hey, we don't like Wilmer Hale either. Um, we think the way you handle top level executives um, is not great. Like, you don't have enough diversity. Um, the way you handle board openings is also not great. And I think the way they phrase the letter is good because uh I think we saw the investors call that shareholders can use like really robotic, like not human empathy language. So it's good that this letter has that tone that appeals to shareholders while making empathetic points.
Yep.
Even if it sounds a little weird to us, like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they'll be like, oh, the way this is happening will impact the human capital or decrease the worker productivity, and it's like, yeah, that sounds a little like unfeeling, but if that's the language the shareholder
That's the language they use,
understands,
indeed. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So it's
Um
important to reach them.
yeah, like the part they said about Wilmer Hale was the announced review by Wilmer Hale is deficient in a number of ways. This firm
Mm-hmm.
has a sterling reputation as a defender of the wealthy and connected, but it has no track record of uncovering wrongdoing. The lead investigator does not have in depth experience investigating workplace harassment and culture, and
Mm-hmm.
the scope of the investigation fails to address the full range of issues Mr. Kotick acknowledges. So I'm
Yep.
like, that's really nice, strong, straightforward. And I think it's good to have large organizations advocating for the worker rights that way.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, again, it's not as if anyone at Blizzard, Activision, is obligated to respond to uh, you know, this letter, but it does put the pressure on. It does keep this in the public eye. Like, as well as I do that the media likes to move on to something if it gets old. Like, even if it's sad news,
Oh
there needs
yeah.
to be entertainment value. So I
Mm-hmm.
do think that having all these reports and statements coming out every few days helps keep this in the public eye and also accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we
Indeed.
don't know what's going to happen with this, but the pressure's still on. We still have a few pieces coming out. People are still doing investigative journalism, highlighting other things. Like, if you remember TESPA, like that, the esports organization, how that just sort of
Oh yeah.
vanished one day.
Yeah.
Apparently, someone with TESPA was being creepy at Blizzard, and
Mm.
it's just, I'm like, oh, like this, like the news just keeps coming.
Things
And I
keep
think,
getting public.
yeah, yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
important to highlight, like, not to be sensational. it's important to highlight because people need to keep pushing for workers' rights, and it's easy for shareholders to be like, "Oh, no one's talking about this. You know, like this is not high priority. We don't need to fix this." But if it does keep being spoken about, then it can ideally help the worker demands. But if that's a slower process, we can see more things like Team Two trying to make smaller changes that they can.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is nice to see that Team 2 is making comforting changes as well for the people working there.
Yeah,
And
it would be
in
nice to have an official statement as well, though. Just because like, oh yeah, sure, like the lead dev gets to move, but does QA still need to go into the office? It would be good to, um, I think, still have more direct messaging from the Warcraft team.
mm-hmm.
Um, Kind of along those lines, I think that's why the co-lead Mike Ybarra has been trying to tweet more WoW stuff to kind of rebuild the relationship
Yeah, apparently
between the
he
WoW
streamed the other
community.
day as well. I wasn't
Yeah,
there to
he's
see
been
it
tweeting
myself, but
about
I
that.
heard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
That
he's
is
been
nice to
tweeting about
see.
like his mythic keys or like,
Mm-hmm.
just like reaching out to influencers about like Final Fantasy or, you know, just trying to, I think, take the everyman approach.
Mm-hmm.
Um because WoW was targeted in the lawsuit report, so I think he's trying to specifically rebuild relations
Mm-hmm.
with the Warcraft community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think along those lines, like I know Ian and Team 2 leadership seems more private, but I think it would be good to keep getting statements, more official statements, like going back to the 915 thing, like it's been a tumultuous time. We've been conducting reviews. We're trying to expand our team. We support the walkout. We're
Yeah,
having
like just more
flexibility in
updates, more
hiring.
transparency. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would go a
Um,
long way right now.
Yeah, because like right now, so many so many people are saying things, and the WoW team seems more quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And especially I think a human approach is needed if the official communication the fans have is listening to the shareholder report, which is not phrased in a way
Yeah.
to be welcoming to fans. Like that's the only statement we have from Mike Ibarra and Jen O'Neill, like this very stilted shareholder language.
Yeah.
It's weird when you're like, oh yeah, Bobby Kotick had the best speech so far. You're like, it's kind of a low bar. So
Yeah.
I'd
No, it
like to
really
see
is.
more like Blizzard
Mm-hmm.
interactions. I can see why they don't want individuals you know, monologuing and then, oh, oops, this individual was connected, and then we look bad if we have to remove them. But I think that team statements that are, vetted by some sort of PR would be good, whether it's, Blizzard Entertainment moving forward or
Mm-hmm.
the World of Warcraft team, besides the Afraziabi mentions. I think more of that would be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
Just timely updates on what's going on and seeing what Ibarra has done so far, I think is also a really nice start. Also to just build some trust again, with you working on a game that you have interest in, because a lot of people do feel like people working on WoW don't play the game, so they don't know anything about it, and that's why they make all these stupid decisions. And I
Yeah.
think if people feel like those who work there actually play the game, I think that goes a long way in terms of trusting.
Yeah, so I mean, I like to see. I think almost maybe I don't know, maybe like an AMA or something would be good with both of them because they both have really interesting backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
But like people are just trying to cling on to any piece of new information about the new Blizzard because there's so much journalism on like the bad past Blizzard that like all I really have to go by is this shareholder meeting and like Mike Ibarra like tweeting a few times about WoW. So it'd be cool if we
Yeah.
could just I don't know do an
No,
AMA where
for
it's
sure,
like
for sure.
like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like now we actually know more about their gaming histories. Like it would be
Mm-hmm.
cool to get, or like, oh, now we actually learn about their qualifications. Like I think it would be good to just have that in like a nice um official place. Like I think people are just so hungry, like they want to believe in the new Blizzard, but they don't really have much communication. So like, the latch onto the smallest thing. So I just think it would be good to stabilize things if there could be more of like a welcome for the two leads getting to
Mm-hmm.
introduce themselves, explain some of the interesting things they've worked on in the past, as well as their, gaming history.
Mm-hmm. And
So
what's to come in the future too.
yeah, like what, are they making changes? Like I thought it was really good that Mike was talking about attending the walkout.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that was a good first tweet, but actions speak louder than words.
Yep.
Are you
Like
going to
what's
be
next?
implementing any of the worker demands?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
we have that.
And I think that kind of actually sums up everything we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
Good
So,
summary of story wrap ups in the game with the campaign coming to an end, and then also the latest developments to do with the lawsuit.
yeah. So far this week does not have any horrific lawsuit development, which is good.
Yeah, there hasn't been
But
any
obviously,
crazy discoveries.
obviously, I would love to have a positive story like, leadership responds to worker demands, new choice of firm or
Mm-hmm.
salary review in progress. I would love to
Mm-hmm.
report on news like that.
Mm-hmm.
So fingers
Yeah, I think
crossed.
salary review would actually be one of the most important things right now.
Yeah.
Double check
So
all the people and make sure they're all getting paid what they deserve.
yeah.
Because clearly the people before did not make the right judgments on that. But yeah, if you're interested in showing support, then following these movements like a better Ubisoft, a better Activision Blizzard, following those can be a good start. Following any kind of outspoken person on social media as well who either works or has worked at Blizzard, that can also be helpful. And yeah, just keeping an eye on the news. Is there any other kind of tips you can give people who want to help? Obviously, there's those charities as well that we were talking about
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, I mean, I think the charities are good. That a better Activision Blizzard mentioned following the accounts,
Mm-hmm.
retweeting, like just sharing the articles because every share helps the article succeed.
Mm-hmm. Because the more
If
exposure
you're
it gets, the less they can ignore, basically.
right, using if there's a hashtag they want to use, using that to signal boost things. And just staying professional, like don't nitpick. If someone sounds upset that works at Blizzard, don't nitpick them. Don't try to play devil's advocate. Like don't accuse them of being sensational or just let them share their articles and keep talking about change. Don't try to police them. They're already dealing with a lot working with Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't,
And
the people that are
mm-hmm.
out there, they don't you don't want to scare them off social media.
Mm-hmm.
um so just try to
Yeah,
be polite.
indeed. Um, as many people can probably imagine, a lot of people who still work at Blizzard or with Blizzard in any way is getting a lot of negativity thrown towards them, be it, someone on social media or a game master in game. Just try to not take out your frustrations on these people, especially people like the game masters. When customer service has been thinned out so much. The people who are still there, um, it's the least that they deserve, considering how bad their working conditions has probably been for a long time now.
Yeah, there were several more exposés on like QA and the sort of other low rungs on Activision Blizzard last week. And yeah, it's a pretty, even though it's like people say, oh, it's an entry level job, like it's not meant to be like an amazing experience. Like it sounds pretty
It still
dismal.
doesn't
Like no
matter.
one would want this type of
Yeah.
job.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a pretty rough situation even on like a good
Mm-hmm.
week, and
Mm-hmm.
certainly like player, vitriol has increased with the lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. And then on surface level in general, if you prefer to support by not spending on Blizzard products, that is totally fine.
Mhm.
If you prefer to continue playing the game or whatever you decide, basically is your choice, and don't force others to do the same thing as yourself. Whether like whichever direction you go, be mindful of others.
Yeah.
There's been enough negativity around, so the least we can do is try to uh, fix that on a surface level, for anyone.
Yeah. And yeah, I
And
mean,
I,
if you are playing other games, just, be critical as well. If you felt tricked by worshiping Blizzard and now they're just a company, like, just realize that if
oh
you're
yeah, be
gonna,
mindful this happens everywhere.
yeah, like, if you want to play other games, definitely have fun, but don't be like, oh, now I'm gonna, worship Riot Games and, like, make my gaming persona all about them and put them on a pedestal. Like, just be realistic, in
Mm-hmm.
the, media
Mm-hmm.
you consume.
I think it's natural to feel betrayed. I think a lot of us did because we looked up to a lot of these
Mm.
people, because it's been a large part of our lives if we've played a game for a long time. But it is important to realize that if you had spent the same amount of time in a different game, you probably would have been and witnessed scandals of that other game if it became public enough. A lot of times these things don't become public, and that's why a lot of these stories are like 10 years old. Um, so, yeah, just be mindful. These things happen at every company.
Yeah.
But the best we can do is to demand better.
Yeah, and just like listen to the workers. Like, if you thought Bobby Kotick's speech was good and you're upset that a Blizzard employee is critical of it, try to understand why instead of being like, "Oh, why can't you just be happy that he agreed with you with the speech?" Just
Mm-hmm.
be like, "Hey, they're the ones dealing with this issue firsthand. I should listen to them why they're upset that he didn't exactly mention their demands instead of, you know being frustrated that they're not being agreeable enough, like,
Mm-hmm.
just be respectful of the workers and try to
Mm-hmm.
listen, and maybe you'll, like, learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
but yeah, I think on
Indeed.
that note we are good
Yep.
to go.
Yep,
Yeah.
indeed. Thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening on. And we're just trying our best to keep up with everything that's happening. Try to give as much like unbiased and just real reactions to anything that's going on at the same time as trying to be as mindful as possible to everyone.
Yeah. So I have a bright paw here. I'm gonna try to pick him up for the goodbye, but he may not be
Yeah.
interested. Bright paw, come here. Come here, baby cat. Oh, he doesn't want to come here, but he's literally right here. You can see
I,
his
I,
ear
I saw his
briefly.
ears sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but before we
Hi,
head
bud.
off, I can also quickly shout out the subs that
Yeah.
happened during the stream. We had Noma with the 13-month resub, Makan with the 24-month resub, that's 2 years, and JD Saphir with the 64-month resub. 64 months,
Yeah,
that's
thank
a
you.
long time.
Wow. Yeah, that is a
Thank you
really
very
long
much for
time.
that.
So,
And yeah, and with that, we'll see you all next week.
yeah, thanks for listening on another show with serious topics, but
Mm-hmm.
very important ones. And
Yep,
we'll see you soon.
yep,
Yep.
indeed. Take care, everyone, and
Yep.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.